Good evening, welcome to Talking Points. My name is Levi Kones. Tonight we are coming to you from the great county of Makueni, county number 17, speaking to the county executive, the CEO of the county, the governor himself, Professor KIBWANA. We talk about his presidential ambitions. We talk about COVID-19 and how Makueni County is fighting that. We also discuss about constitutional review and his thoughts about that. And what about the stalemate of the Constitution? For all this and much, much more, stay tuned to Talking Points. We start right now.
Thank you very much for your visit. This is indeed a great honor for us to come to Makueni. When COVID happened, and this is in March of this year, there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of apprehension. People, particularly due to the experience abroad in China, in Italy, Spain, and later in USA, people really thought that we were not prepared as Africa and therefore Kenya. And so this pandemic would have devastating effects on our country and of course countries in Africa. And so from the national level, percolating to the counties, we were told to really prepare for the pandemic. And we began by making sure that the health personnel are trained, because this is a new thing, more or less like what happened in Ebola in West Africa. So there was a lot of preparation. Fortunately, we had a doctor who had been in West Africa during Ebola. So in terms of beginning to teach our people how to approach this pandemic, that happened. And we therefore were able to prepare our senior health personnel to begin with, at the doctor's level and so on. Then we got into the nurses and to the clinical officers, so that we had a contingent of health personnel who are now prepared to face this new pandemic in terms of the protocols and all that kind of stuff. Then we got into the communities, so that also we prepared 4,240 community health workers, so that they could, on top of what they knew about managing health issues at the community, they could also now take on board this COVID-19 issue. And we did not only work on the existing community health workers, we have development committees in this county, what we call a third level of government. And at the village level, we have 3,643 villages, and the village forum elects a committee of 12 people. So we again train those, we capacity build those roughly 47,000 people, so that they could go into communities, they could tell them about symptoms, they could tell them about people who have high blood pressure, who have diabetes, people more vulnerable. They could even tell us about households where there's a challenge of food, nutrition generally, so that that army would be able to also help us. And actually, one of those was to watch over 5 households, so that we cover each household. And the reason was Makueni has the largest expanse of the Nairobi-Mombasa highway, almost 250 kilometers. And because of the truck drivers, that was one area of exposure. so we wanted to be very, very, very careful. We wanted to be very, very careful.
Right. Are you confident that at the very grassroots levels, to the the lady and the gentleman who may not be very literate or conversant with the medical terminologies, they actually understood what was going on, social distance, wash your hands, all that?
That was a challenge. It was a challenge because this is a new culture that you are introducing. Because as Africans and as Kenyans, we are very social. We like to be near each other. We like community. So it was always and is still a challenge telling people to wear masks so that you can't recognize your neighbor immediately. You must be separate from somebody else. That has always been a challenge. And of course, there are also those who believe that COVID or coronavirus was a disease of the towns. It was a disease of Nairobi. Actually, there was a time when if you came from Nairobi or from Mombasa or from the major towns, the people would report to the chief and would report to the county administration that there is a stranger who has come from Nairobi, and they would be seeking that the person goes back. So there was the fear, and there was also the stigma, which are things that we had to work. Of course, we built a COVID unit where in Uwote, where now people are critically unwell would be admitted. We also with KMTC, we were able at Makindu to have the isolation center with a capacity of over 300 beds. Fortunately, we manufacture oxygen, so that was readily available for our facilities. We therefore are in a place to say that we had the personnel, we had reasonable infrastructure, we had also the PPIs, we had equipment to be able to handle the pandemic in our situation. One thing that challenged us was initially the people who died from COVID, people of Makueni, or from outside Makueni, like from Mombasa, from Nairobi, and in those initial days, like the relatives would be scared of burying them, and so it was the county, which also professionally was supposed to do that, our public health people, and that was quite expensive because for one burial, the county had to spend like 80,000 shillings because of the PPEs and the transport and all that. But that also we handled.
Some stigma.
Well, we had it. Yeah, that has been. It's like the initial time when there was HIV. There was a lot of stigma, and that's human nature. When people don't know a particular disease, they get afraid and all that. In actual fact, something that I noticed, which was really not a good thing, is COVID-19 patients had double stigma. Because the moment you say that he is positive or she is positive, the first thought for most people was this is HIV/AIDS. So there is like stigma because there's an association of positivity with HIV/AIDS. Then you say, no, this is not HIV/AIDS. This is a corona virus. So they say even that one is not a good one. I think as we go on in our country, that's one important thing that we need to learn, that you don't stigmatize people on the basis of disease. You don't stigmatize people on the basis of like tribe, like, all those differences and conditions that we may have.
Definitely, sir. One of the things I want to, we noticed with COVID-19 was also the effect that it had on social, status of people, businesses, livelihoods, and schools.
Yes.
In Makueni County, with regards especially to schools and schooling, What are your personal views as governor on how to reintegrate ourselves back into schooling and all the challenges we are facing with the children being at home?
You see, the questions that are being asked are all of a sudden the political class has decided there is more or less no COVID-19 because they are involved in big rallies and all that kind of stuff. So the question has become, even in schools, where of course less students are involved, was it not possible to ensure that some learning is maintained? So there's a lot of frustration by parents and the students themselves that there is now loss of one academic year, more or less like happened when the universities were closed in the 80s, I think because of the attempted coup d'etat. So there's loss of a year, and usually when there's loss of a year, the girls get more affected because they grow faster. Now with the situation of teen pregnancies, which are ascribed to both their peers as well as older men, because these children are very vulnerable and easy to cheat. So that has become, a major problem in Makueni, in the entire country, which also goes into saying that our moral fiber as a people, our ethical content is seriously lacking. Because usually, even in traditional Africa, we protected children. We did not exploit them. Of course, they would do some work, but the work was done so that they could. It was also our traditional education, but it was not work to exploit them. But now it looks like that is not happening.
It's not happening. What would you personally like to see happen with, as far as the move to reintegrate us back to schooling? What would have been your ideal thoughts in how we have handled this and how we would have handled it?
I think we need to seriously consider bringing the children back to school, because for whatever reason, COVID-19 or coronavirus, for whatever reason, it does not appear to really have attacked Africa as much as elsewhere. I don't know whether the scientists have a reason for that. They're thinking about what is the reason for that. Because even now, the children being home, they are going into the towns. They are, all over the place. They are not necessarily more protected when they are in their homes or in the villages or in the towns. Actually, you might even protect them better in a controlled environment. So I personally think that we should bring them back to school and develop the necessary protocols so that there is, distance and a bit of that, so that there's more security there and the education is not jeopardized. And I think that's something that the Ministry of Education, even county governments, although it's not our function, we can be of some assistance. So I think that's something that should be done. This issue of community education as well, because you're bringing the children together. So if you bring them together in the community, why can't you bring them together in the schools? That idea of community education, of the kids coming together with the teachers in that area, and this is something that will not necessarily be counted for their grades and so on. I find that also a troubling concept, although it's a question of like saying bring them some common place so that they can be there and not walk all over the place. But I think that's one area of education where perhaps there could have been more focus and to make sure that our children, because other places abroad, even in Africa, kids are going to school within a controlled situation and with more care. So it is my expectation that the children will go back. Of course, in elite families where there's more protection, and even the kids are taught through IT, through some teachers who are hired to do that. They have not had a problem as much as the children in poorer environments. And so this is something that, as a country, we need now to focus on and say, let our children come back to school.
Your Excellency, let me just switch gears and talk about the race for the State House 2022. A lot of people have expressed their interests in being head of state. You have as well. What is your burning desire? You're in your second term as a Makueni governor. What drives you to say, I want to be president? And what would you like to actually achieve?
First of all, I encourage those who feel they can make a difference in Kenya's leadership to aspire. Because at the end of the day, it's the people of Kenya who will decide whom they want to give into, they want to place in the leadership of their country. So I don't belong to those, there's a school which says that, there are too many people, some of them should give up and all that.
I was coming there.
I don't belong to that school.
Yes.
Because we are in a democracy. And when we are in a democracy, whoever has legitimate ambition to vie for any position, whether it is the presidency, whether it's MCA, they need to be encouraged and do so. Because ultimately, it's the people who will choose whom they want to give certain positions. So that is my first point. But I think when one looks at Kenya, where we are at, in terms of the problem of corruption, in terms of the problem of negative ethnicity, in terms of youth neglect, including what we have been discussing, children not being facilitated to continue with their school as of now. When you look at the farmers, agriculture, how it is doing, when you look at the economy, when you look at the public debt, that is almost collapsing us, truth be told. When you look at where our country is as of now, and you look at the political bickering within current top leadership, there's a void. The country is crying for redeeming leadership. A leadership which is not self-centered, which will come and say, we have a big problem to solve. We can only solve it together. And I think from my history, from when I was first of all a dean in the Faculty of Law, as the country transited back into democracy, when we fought for the new constitution, when I have been governor in Makueni and I have, tried to make people be part of their own development, I believe that I have the necessary experience to be part of a team of like-minded people who really want change for their country, people who don't want to be vindictive, people who want to promote integrity, people who want to focus on the ordinary citizen, on people who want to do good business, clean business. So I am persuaded that if I was given the opportunity by Kenyans, of course with others, because you can't be the leader alone, other like-minded people, I'm persuaded that, difficult as it is, because I know it will not be an easy thing, but one can change our country, one can turn around our country and give it a new lease of life.
A new lease of life. We're going to take a quick break on that note. When we come back, we are speaking to Makueni Governor KIBWANA.